The Indiana Fever just crushed for franchise records in a single night without Caitlin Clark on the floor.
Fever dog! Bow, bow, bow. Dub in the chat. A W. Ah.
The 100 win over Phoenix. Stephanie White called that a big win. They were outstanding. Mitchell,
Come on.
The former Dallas wing, Natasha Howard.
Nobody was looking for this. We think Kelsey Mitchell's going to shoot, but that is the play to make right there. Nobody in the passing lane.
Wins in a row, a season high. Just how have you been able to find that rhythm over this stretch?
I think it's been about, we've had some practices, and I think practicing has definitely tuned us up, fine-tuning up as far as the details. We knew before All-Star that, the second half of the season is always about people making adjustments, people finding ways to stop what we have to do. And I think that on us, we try to do a good job of staying locked in at practices and shoot-arounds and all that kind of stuff to be where we need to be.
14 20-point games this season in her 8th year. She also has a couple of 30s. And Mitchell trades the three.
Now have a little bit of an advantage in the paint, and they need to keep doing that.
That time Dejanay went for the steal, and Mitchell kept it away from her. Would not have taken that call so gently, shall we say. Now, Kalani Brown was her buffer last year. Is Mitchell all the way to the hole?
So you stick together, communicate on defense. This is a high-octane offensive team.
Beautiful pass. Mitchell was so sure of that. After she passed it, she started running down the
Get here, but you got to go up strong right there. Don't shy away from the defense because they will get out in transition. And Kelsey Mitchell doing what she does. Indiana up in Dallas.
Finding ways to get wins, and that's going on some scoring bursts. That's being able to rely on multiple players, getting stops when needed, making adjustments, and continuing to grow. I mean, this is a group that's been resilient all season long, and I think that we have such quality depth that we can rely on one another, and rely on one another in certain moments. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with Ari is that she's dependable. And she's dependable, not always for production, but she understands the impact that she can make in the game. And she understands how to do it, starting it on the defensive end, pushing pace, dictating tempo, getting to the rim, creating shots for her teammates, all of those things. And she's got an incredible awareness. And so she understands when she's hot, and she understands when somebody else is hot and how to get them the ball. But I've just been really proud to see her confidence grow in our system and the ownership that she's taking in being that leader on the floor for us.
Signed Chloe Bibby to a rest of season contract today. Just what impressed you about her on that 7-day and those 2 games she played in?
Well, number one, just the way that she fit in right away. She gives us a different look from that forward position with her ability to stretch the floor. And particularly in 2 games where we really needed to create space for AB to go to work inside, she was able to do that for us. She came in and she learned the system right away. It just was such an easy transition, and she's
pass outside to Howard.
Oh,
Boston at the basket, foul on Haley Jones.
It is not a move her out geographically away from the lane to get her off the basket. Tough rebound there.
Geisel Suter's going to come out. Lee Yu-Ru will check in.
But that's not all. Kelsey Mitchell now leads the entire WNBA in most 20-point games after the All-Star break. Her 23 points against Dallas marked her 13th game this season with 20 or more points. Mitchell has been the steady scoring threat that keeps this offense moving even when other players struggle.
The 100 win over Phoenix. Stephanie White called that a big win. They were outstanding. Mitchell,
come on.
The former Dallas wing, Natasha Howard.
Nobody was looking for this. We think Kelsey Mitchell's going to shoot, but that is the play to make right there. Nobody in the...
Our season was all over the place, obviously, with, the people that was on the team, the people that wasn't on the team, injury, Tutu not being around as much with her injuries, and just, it takes a lot for a pro to step up and, be where her feet is and step and fill in shoes that, not a lot of people expect. And I think for Ari, she compliments myself all the other players so well because she just gets it as far as knowing where people are, knowing the chemistry. And I think for us to her, we have to make sure that we keep patting her on the back because this is a big position to fill, and I think that she's doing it unbelievably well. So shout out to you, Ed.
Appreciate you. Asked Kelsey in regards to or about this, but Ari, just the impact that she's had for you all this season. What do you like most about what you've seen from her thus far?
No, number one, her energy. I mean, she is she's an energy giver. She's fast. Her speed changes the game for us. Her ability to get the ball from one end to the other quickly. Her ability to get into players defensively. She changes the game for us in that way. I have continued to be impressed with just how quickly she immersed herself, into our team and fit in right away.
Everyone thought her injury would sink their season, yet the team exploded instead. So did losing the superstar actually reveal the true strength hiding on Indiana's bench? Keep watching, because what happened next rewrote more than the scoreboard. It rewrote expectations for the entire league. August 1st, 2025, College Park Center in Dallas. On paper, it looked like another routine regular season matchup. Indiana Fever against the Wings. Number Caitlin Clark. National analysts predicting a narrow loss. 40 minutes later, the scoreboard read 88-78. And Indiana walked off the hardwood, sitting 4 games over .500 for the first time in 10 years. That number alone felt unreal, but it only hinted at what had just unfolded. Indiana splashed the most threes it had ever hit in a road game, coughed up its fewest turnovers of the year, and recorded its highest true shooting percentage since 2012 for the first time since the Tamika Catchings era. 3 Fever players cracked 20 points in the same night. Commentators called it lucky. Fans wondered if the Wings were off their game. Yet inside the Fever locker room, everyone sensed something deeper. This was not a fluke. It was the moment the franchise discovered a brand new identity hiding in plain sight. And the spark that set it off came from a guard who wasn't supposed to be on the roster at all. 2 months before the Dallas upset, Ari McDonald watched the preseason from her apartment, scrolling through social media highlights while her phone stayed silent. She had been a lottery pick in 2021, a defensive dynamo in college. Yet every training camp cut felt sharper than the last. Her name finally resurfaced in May on a hardship contract, the kind of short-term lifeline teams use when injuries pile up. Most players treat that deal like a week-to-week audition, packing suitcases they never bother to unpack. Ari treated it like a rescue flare. She asked for every late-night gym key, ran stadium stairs while others iced knees, and slept with an iPad playing Fever sets on loop. The first breakthrough came against Phoenix. 27 points, 4 steals, and a fearless layup through Brittany Griner that landed on every highlight reel by morning. Reporters called it a survival game. But inside the locker room, Kelsey Mitchell recognized something deeper. McDonald did not just survive, she accelerated the entire offense. Her north-south attacks forced 2 defenders into the paint, which opened the corners like automatic doors. When those kicks turned into threes, Coach Christy Sides handed her the second unit keys. The numbers snowballed fast, 150 points and 50 assists in a shade over 5 games, the quickest any Fever reserve had ever cleared that benchmark. By the Dallas matchup, she was logging starter minutes, slamming the brakes on opposing pick and rolls, then jetting the other way before defenders could pivot. Yet the stat sheet still missed the invisible ripple. Practices grew louder because Ari's voice led every drill. Film sessions moved faster because she dissected coverages before coaches clicked pause. The veteran core started calling her our hidden accelerant, a nod to the way she burned seconds off the shot clock. With one hard push, opponents began scheming traps just to slow her first step, which quietly bought extra airspace for Indiana's shooters. And one of those shooters was about to cash in on that freedom at a dizzying rate, while McDonald carved lanes through traffic. A relatively unknown forward warmed up beyond the arc, ready to turn spacing into pure artillery. When Chloe Bebby first walked into the Fever facility, there was no grand press conference or viral signing video. She was there on a 7-day contract, the kind most players treat like a handshake and a "we'll call you." But within 48 hours, she had flipped that temporary deal into a guaranteed rest of season spot. The reason? A shooting stroke so quick and clean that it instantly changed the geometry of Indiana's offense. In her first 3 games, Bibby drained multiple threes each night, something no Fever newcomer had managed in nearly 2 decades. The release was high and unhurried, almost casual, the kind of shot that made defenders feel late even when they closed out hard. That instant threat pulled opposing wings out of the paint, leaving Aaliyah Boston and Natasha Howard with acres of space to work inside. Suddenly, post entries felt easier. Back cuts opened like trapdoors, and the ball zipped from corner to corner with a confidence that had been missing earlier in the season. What made Bibby dangerous wasn't just her accuracy, but her refusal to force the spotlight. She didn't hunt shots or call for isolations, she simply waited for the defense to blink. When they did, she made them pay. By the time Dallas tried switching quicker guards onto her, the damage was done. The Fever's spacing was locked in, and the paint was wide open for the front court to dominate. And in that front court, 2 players were about to deliver a performance that would etch their names into WNBA history books forever. Inside the newly cleared paint, Aaliyah Boston and Natasha Howard went to work like seasoned architects, stacking numbers until the stack crew had to double-check the files. Boston posted her 5th straight double-double before the end of the detacting, subsiding of the 3rd quarter, muscling through contact, spinning off secondary defenders, and finishing with touch soft enough to hush a road crowd. Howard matched her intensity possession for possession, ripping rebounds at head height and firing laser beam outlet passes that launched fast breaks before Dallas could even call for help. What made the night historic was not the volume, but the symmetry. By the final buzzer, both frontcourt anchors sat on at least 10 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals each, a line that had never appeared twice on the same side of a WNBA box score. It was the kind of balanced dominance that forces analysts to redraw matchup charts. Boston's footwork pulled the wing center out of her comfort zone. Howard's mid-range jumper punished every late rotation, and together they blotted out second-chance hopes by vacuuming the glass clean. The chemistry looked effortless, yet it had been forged in quiet hours after practice. The pair ran post-to-post passing drills until the ball felt like an extension of their fingertips. They studied angles, memorized each other's preferred pivot shoulders, and even devised hand signals to disguise splits and high-low entries. When game speed kicked in, those rehearsed micro-movements translated into easy buckets and, maybe more importantly, fewer turnovers. Commentators began comparing them to the classic twin tower tandems of early league lore. But the duo brushed off the nostalgia. For them, records were simply proof that the system worked without its headline star. Every possession that ended in a Howard putback or a Boston kick-out 3 was another reminder that Indiana's offense could stretch far beyond Caitlin Clark's gravity. The question echoing through the arena was simple. If this is what the Fever look like missing their primary scorer, how dangerous will they be when she returns? That thought simmered among fans. Yet it was another storyline one brewing at the free throw line, and inside referee huddles that threatened to hijack headlines next. As the score ticked toward the final buzzer, another set of numbers flashed on the broadcast graphic. Free throws, Dallas 25, Indiana 13. Almost instantly, social media lit up with #RefGate memes and slow-motion clips of phantom contacts. Commentators replayed a single third-quarter sequence where Boston took a forearm in the ribs, dropped the ball, then stared at the official in disbelief while Dallas sprinted the other way for a layup. Viewers at home counted the missed calls, convinced the Stripes had swallowed the whistle. What really fueled the uproar was a league-wide unease about inconsistent officiating. All-season fans had argued that rookies received playoff-level contact, while veterans coasted on reputation. The Fever's newfound physical style only sharpened that debate. They fought over every screen, dug for loose balls, and bodied cutters until refs had to choose between letting the game breathe and filling entire notebooks with personal fouls. Some front office insiders whispered that Indiana's bruising brand reminded officials of early-era NBA ball, so the crew let more contact go. Others countered that marquee stars like Paige Buchers still got the friendlier whistle, leaving up-and-comers to fend for themselves. Coaches on both benches walked a careful line in post-game interviews. Wing staff praised the officials for letting players decide the outcome, while Fever coach Christy Sides only smiled and said, "Our job is to play through whatever is called." Behind closed doors, though, players admitted the free throw gap felt like a silent opponent. They could not box out. Kelsey Mitchell told teammates they would have to hit first and ask questions later. They wanted the same whistles on the road, yet inside the Fever locker room, the chatter quickly pivoted from refs to chemistry. Instead of dwelling on missed calls, they replayed clips of crisp ball movement and high-low passes that looked more polished with each outing. The controversy outside the arena might dominate airwaves, but the bonding inside it would shape the next phase of their season, and that bond was cemented by an unexpected locker room mantra spun from one casual quote. A line that soon wrapped itself around every practice and team huddle. The Fever's renaissance wasn't forged on the hardwood alone. It took root in the locker room after that Dallas win. When reporters crowded around Kelsey Mitchell and asked how a team missing its superstar had just delivered a clinic, Mitchell didn't hesitate. "Ari is our blessing in disguise," she said, smiling across the room at McDonald, who is still icing her knees. The line traveled fast, splashing across headlines and hashtags within minutes. What the public didn't see was the ripple it sent through the roster. Inside team meetings the next morning, players had already printed the phrase on whiteboard paper, "Our blessing in disguise." It turned into a rallying cry, a reminder that every perceived setback, Clark's injury, preseason cuts, media doubt could hide an opportunity. Veteran voices who once dominated the room stepped back, giving space to newer faces whose energy felt contagious. Coach Christy Sides embraced the shift, shortening film sessions so players could hash out their own reads, encouraging open debate, and even handing McDonald the scout team clipboard. The result was a chemistry that felt unforced, a chorus, with no soloist. Practices became louder and somehow lighter. Bibby teased Mitchell about her step-back footwork. Boston and Howard invented a handshake that was half dance, half boxing routine. Even bench players who rarely saw the court found fresh purpose in dissecting opponents' tendencies, then feeding that intel to whoever suited up. The vibe spread beyond basketball. On the next road trip, the team booked a last-minute group dinner, skipped the fancy steakhouse, and hit a hole-in-the-wall taco spot where everyone shared plates and stories until closing time. By the final tortilla, Mitchell tapped her glass and summed up the night. "We're done waiting for luck. We make the luck now." That do-it-ourselves mentality hardened into a collective shield when the free throw controversy swirled. Instead of firing back at critics online, players posted a single emoji-wrapped gift under each other's highlights, a nod to the blessing mantra. The subtle clapback told outsiders they could keep the noise. Inside, the Fever felt bulletproof. Yet one presence still loomed over every practice, a rehabbing Caitlin Clark, jogging gentle laps in practice gear, studying plays from the sideline. Teammates knew her return was coming, and no one could predict whether it would amplify their newfound balance or tilt the scales in a whole new direction. That uncertainty only sharpened their focus. With each passing day without her, the Fever kept stacking evidence that they could thrive on their own terms, setting the stage for the sport's most talked about comeback. Because when a global phenomenon finally steps back onto a court, she no longer recognizes the chemistry she meets could spark a title run or ignite a whole different storm. While the Fever rewrote headlines, Caitlin Clark watched from the sideline in sneakers and a compression sleeve, logging rehab miles instead of minutes. The team lists her right groin strain as week to week, but trainers quietly circle "my doggist" as the target they refuse to promise. Every practice she jogs baseline laps, studying new sets that no longer revolve around her logo range pull-up. Cameras zoom in on the clipboard in her hands, searching for hints that she still runs the show. Off the court, another storyline grows louder. Clark's omission from the Paris Olympic roster sparked a firestorm. Fans flooded social feeds with highlight montages and bronze medal jokes, while pundits debated whether her absence was politics, pacing, or pure gatekeeping. The All-Star votes dipped for the first time in her career, feeding speculation that the league's golden child might be slipping in popularity. Just as her team surges without her, rumors swirl that Indiana will limit her minutes when she returns, pairing her with Ari McDonald only in key stretches to keep the pace scorching. Some insiders predict a two-guard press that forces defenses to pick which lightning bolt to chase. Others whisper that McDonald's rise could push Clark off the ball, letting her hunt spot up threes instead of orchestrating every possession. Either way, her comeback is no longer billed as a rescue mission. It is a chemistry experiment with title-level stakes, and that experiment faces its first critical test against a brutal closing schedule that will decide whether the Fever merely surprise people or crash the championship conversation. The Fever's next 10 days read like a stress test for title hopefuls. Seattle flies into Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Wednesday, bringing a top-5 defense that lives on turnovers. 2 nights later, Indiana boards a red-eye to Las Vegas, where the reigning champs still flash rings in pre-game warm-ups. After a single travel day, they land in Brooklyn to face the Liberty, a roster built to punish even the smallest lapse in focus. 3 games, 3 coasts, 1 chance to prove that Dallas burst was the start of a surge, not a spike. Indiana sits at 17 wins, chasing the 3rd seed that delivers home court comfort and a first-round breather. Split the road swing, and they hold every head-to-head tiebreaker that matters. Steal all 3, and the standings flip from nice surprise to possible favorite almost overnight. Coach Sides tells reporters the margin is simple: value the ball, own the glass, and trust the extra pass. Behind closed doors, players add 1 more rule run until the other team begs for a timeout. The blueprint turns on depth. McDonald and Clark can form a 2-guard press that keeps opponents in backpedal mode for 40 minutes. Bibby's corner. Gravity drags rim protectors away from Boston's post moves. Howard's mid-range touch forces pick-your poison choices every trip. Even the bench looks different now, stocked with role players who know exactly why they check in and exactly when to let it fly. The league office is already paying attention. National windows get shuffled to spotlight the Fever's stretch run. Sponsorship reps call daily, asking for ticket blocks they can't guarantee. Old-school analysts who once dismissed the team as a 1-star sideshow now debate how Indiana's balance could reshape the playoff bracket and, by extension, the entire economics of the women's game. So the stage is set. If the Fever navigate this gauntlet with the poise they showed in Dallas, they might roll into Midogast, not as a feel-good story, but as the squad no one wants to meet in a 5-game war. The only thing left to learn is how a returning superstar will fit into a machine that suddenly hums without her, and whether that final piece turns a hot streak into a dynasty in the making. The Indiana Fever walked into Dallas searching for survival and walked out with a whole new identity. In the weeks since, Ari McDonald has become their engine, Chloe Bibby their silent artillery, and the Boston Howard tandem their immovable core. Every whistle debate, every late-night practice, and every blessing in disguise mantra has hardened their edge. Now a global star jogs the sideline, waiting for clearance to return to a team that no longer needs saving. Her comeback could supercharge an emerging contender or test the very chemistry that sparked this rise. One way or another, the next few games will decide whether Indiana simply shocks the playoffs or resets the balance of power across the league. So, what happens when a roster already setting records adds the most talked about player on earth? Let me know your boldest take below. Surprise exit, finals fairy tale, or the birth of the next dynasty?